So here's how it all went down. So a little while back, I meet a friend by the name of Andy from Malawi, Africa, a place that I actually had never heard of until I met him. Over the years, as I got to know Andy, I learned that he had founded a nonprofit organization in Malawi to help local children and elders in need from the area. My little family and I took a lot of interest into what he was doing. We thought it was great. So we would make donations from afar whenever we could. And the cool thing about donating to the Grace Foundation in comparison to a place like Goodwill was that Andy and his volunteers overseas would update us with photos and information as far as to where our donations went once they reached Malawi. So it was just really cool to share photos with my children of children in Malawi wearing clothes that they had outgrown and that we had donated. So fast forward a little bit, and I get a phone call from Andy one day inviting me and my wife on a trip to Malawi, Africa with him and his wife. I quickly said yes. I'm always down to travel to new places, and Africa is a place that I've never been before. But on top of that, we would have Andy and his family on the grounds to show us around. So it was an opportunity that we just simply couldn't pass up. So in the beginning, it was just supposed to be me and my wife. I mentioned this in a previous video. My oldest son took a lot of interest once we had informed him. My oldest is a little like me. He has a very adventurous spirit, but we did have some concerns about bringing him along because Malawi is a third world country. And although it's not a dangerous place whatsoever, our biggest concern was the medical care that he would have access to in case anything was to happen. It's not uncommon when you're traveling overseas to simply get sick off the food or water. So we put a lot of thought and consideration into it, and in the end, we decided to bring him along, which I must say was probably one of the best decisions that we ever made. So we packed our bags and made our way to Malawi. So obviously one of our goals there was to visit the Grace Foundation, which we did on a very first full day there. We spent the entire day with the volunteers, the children, and elders of the Grace Foundation. We were greeted by the volunteers right away and got a super huge warm welcome from the beneficiaries there. The elder ladies performed some songs and dances for us. I mean, it was great. Shortly after this warm welcome, one of the beneficiaries there, I think her name was Mayi Biliat, if I'm not mistaken, offered to lead us by foot to the local village where most of the beneficiaries lived. We were really excited to see everything firsthand, not only for us, but for Beckham as well. Here's the interesting thing. Right before we started making our way, Andy's friend, who is also a volunteer there, he approached me and quietly suggested that Beckham stay back with the other children due to people being envious. I didn't really understand it, but I agreed to be polite. I mean, I had no problem with Beckham staying back with the other kids and the volunteers. I mean, he was in great care. So, as we're making our way to the village, I approach Andy's friend once more and ask him to elaborate a little bit more because I was unclear as to why he had to stay back. And what I found interesting is that Malawi, although it has a big Christian community, witchcraft is still deeply rooted in their culture. And he was concerned that while we were visiting the village, that somebody there might be envious of him and cast a spell. And according to belief, if I'm not mistaken, is that children have weaker spirits and are more prone to these spells being casted on them.
This is water.
Once we got there, we were able to visit one of the children's home. And the harsh conditions there really reminded me of certain parts of Laos where my dad is from. People there were just getting by with the bare minimum. It was obvious that water and food was pretty scarce there.
A bedroom like this one. A bedroom. Yeah, if you can take a picture from that side.
So she sleeps here?
Yes, it sleeps here. This is one of the typical, or one of the typical house where most of our beneficiaries we have identified the same situation.
So after we visited the home, we made our way around the village where the children were super excited to see us. I think everybody was a little excited to see us around, but the children just showed the most excitement. They were really excited about the camera. And the reason for that is I later found out that for a lot of these people in the village, this was their first time they would be encountering an outsider, a Mzungu as they call us. People of a different heritage. So that alone was very interesting. So shortly after that, we made our way back to the grounds of the Grace Foundation, where the volunteers had prepared a meal for us. Now, I didn't know what to expect of the food in Malawi. I wasn't very familiar with African food in general, but the food there was delicious. They had prepared for us a goat curry stew, white rice, a potato salad, stir-fried cabbage. They had enough prepared for everyone there, which is one of the things that they strive to do on the daily. Obviously, that depends on the contributions and donations that they have received from the outside. So now here's where this newspaper thing comes into play. So while we were visiting, there was a couple of special guests in attendance. The local chief and his wife were there, as well as a local reporter who I had no idea was even around. There was a lot of people there, so I didn't know who was who. And I found out towards the end of our visit when he asked us to pose for a photo. Now, I didn't know what was to come of this news article, but turns out that it was released in a local newspaper while we were still in Malawi. I think the most important part about this article being published in a local newspaper was simply that it gave exposure to the Grace Foundation and the work that they're doing in the community.
Absolutely.
So before departing, my wife had gathered a whole bunch of goodies, toys, pencils, pens, notebooks, those sort of things into a duffel bag that we brought along with us in hopes that we could distribute them to the kids in person since we've been donating from afar all this time. Beckham was assigned to assisting with passing them out, which I think was a great experience for him. So overall, I think the one thing that I take with me from our visit at the Grace Foundation was that just to be grateful for what we have, and I know it's something that we say often, but to be there firsthand and to see the challenging conditions that the less fortunate live by in Malawi was simply an eye-opener for us. And a big thank you to Andy and his wife April for sharing this experience with us. And folks, if donating and contributing to the Grace Foundation is something you might be interested in, please visit the website. I will leave it at the end of this video. Again, thank you so much for watching, guys. And until the next one, this is Cedric, and I'm out.